Hi folks, welcome back to Pop Pop Fizzle. I'm Jeff. Normally I am joined by my wife Heidi, and I'm sitting a little bit more this way and she's sitting a little more this way. Today though, it's just me. Mainly because she had to work and she was not able to go with me to see The Nun. I did see The Nun, and I will have your non-spoiler review right after this. Okay, welcome back. We are here to do the non-spoiler review, or I am here. It's usually a week. I'm here to do the non-spoiler review for The Nun. Now, The Nun came out last weekend. I'm filming this on Tuesday after its release. It was my first chance to get to go out and catch it. I caught it at a 10:30 IMAX screening tonight, and this is, as I said, a non-spoiler review. I'm not going to get into any plot specifics. But I will tell you whether or not I like the film, and I'll talk about some of the things that stood out to me. I'm sure you know, if you've seen the trailers, that The Nun is part of the Conjuring franchise. The character of the nun appeared in another film, in a Conjuring film. And I have seen, aside from Annabelle, I have seen all of the Conjuring-related pictures, films, movies, whatever you want to call them, cinemas. Yeah. Anyway, I'm losing my mind, folks. Sorry. No, I've seen them all, and one of the things that I enjoy about horror movies is, certainly the scare, but really it's the atmosphere. It's the setting, the overcoming the sort of feeling of powerlessness to engage with something bigger and better than you are. I like that in a horror film. Now, I wouldn't say that I have been a huge fan of the Conjuring franchise. I know they made a lot of money, and I think they were perfectly fine for what they were, but they just weren't movies that I ran out of saying, wow, that was a great film. I was never sorry that I had gone to see them. I just, it just was not a franchise, and is not a franchise that I rush out to go see the film on opening weekend. Now, when they debuted the nun character, in whichever Conjuring film that was, I did, it was an interesting notion, it was an interesting look that the character had, and so I was excited to see this film. I'm not excited enough to rush out and see it over the weekend, mainly because I was traveling. Heidi and the kids were also traveling, and so we had a lot going on, and I just didn't get a chance to see it until tonight. So I went by myself. As I said, Heidi was at work, and so I went to see the film, and it was an odd experience. I'll just let you know up front, just in case you feel like this affects my ability to judge the film. No, I went to my local AMC. As you know, if you've watched other videos, I'm an A-list member, and I enjoy that perk, especially since we like to do reviews for you. So I used my A-list card tonight, and I got a ticket for the IMAX showing at 10:30 p.m. And my particular AMC only has one IMAX theater, one IMAX screen. And so when I got there, I got checked in and got my popcorn and my giant tub of soda, and I went to go and find my seat. And I had noticed that when I checked in for the film that there were all the seats open, like not just a few seats open, like all the seats open except for the one I took. So I wasn't sure, and I kind of thought, somebody will come in at the spur of the moment or whatever. But I got there, and I was the first person through the door, and all the lights were out in the theater, and there was no pre-show playing, which is normally, on a good 20 minutes before the film starts in most AMC theaters. So there was no pre-show. So the theater was just pitch black, except for the little running lights along the aisles. And those running lights with the screen dark were not nearly enough to see my way to get to my seat. I assume nobody else was in there because they would have been sitting in the pitch black. So I left and went out and let one of the theater workers know what was happening, and they called that in. And then I went back and stood at the back of the theater waiting for the lights to come up, and they still didn't. And as I said, it was a 10:30 show, so by 10:26 or 27, when the film had still not, when the lights had still not come on, when the pre-show had still not started or whatever, I walked back out and said something again, and this time one of the managers was waved over, and he walked me back in there to turn the house lights up, and I was the only person in the theater, and I sat down, and then after I sat down, by this point it's 10:30, so the movie should technically be started, and I watch as other people start to come in, and I think there ended up being about 12 of us maybe in the theater altogether. And the movie did not start until about 10:40 or so, and then there was no pre-show or anything other than trailers. They started straight with the trailers. So it's a little weird, you know. I mean, I'm not somebody who gets creeped out by a darkened theater, and I'm certainly not somebody who gets creeped out in advance when I'm going to see a scary movie, or even after the fact, usually. So that didn't spook me, but it was just an odd experience, and I felt like everything was already delayed, so I kind of wish they had skipped over the trailers, but anyway, that's beside the point. It was just an odd experience overall, and I don't think that it tainted anything that I'm going to say about the movie, but I'm just going to let you know that up front. Again, this is a non-spoiler review. I would say, you know, if you like this film franchise, if you like the Conjuring franchise, that you'll probably like this. One of the things that I thought was strong about it was the performance of Thaisa Farmiga, who, of course, is the sister of Vera Farmiga, who is part of the Conjuring franchise. Anyway, I thought that was a cool decision to use her. I thought all the roles were done well. I mean, there weren't really any standout performances. They were just solid performances, and it's a pretty small film in the sense of not a whole lot of characters to get to know, not a whole lot of people coming and going, but the set design and the atmosphere of this film I really liked. To me, with a horror movie, that's kind of the main element. You know, I know there are going to be jump scares in a modern horror film. Much to my chagrin, that seems to be what people rely on for these things, and there are plenty of those here. That's not all it relies on, but there's a lot. And for me, the atmosphere of this film and the setting and the set design all help sell this notion of dread and the sense of unease that you have, and just the you know, the whole place just seems weary and worn and dirty, and like something's amiss. And so, you know, you feel that in the surroundings, and then the story brings out the elements that make it feel that way even more. So I thought all that was done very successfully. What I think was less successful was just the amount of jump scares. That wasn't the only kind of scare that was available in this film, but there were still quite a few of them. There's still enough to, you know, kind of look at it and say, well, this is a very typical sort of Hollywood horror film. And unfortunately, I've seen such great ones over the last year or so that I felt like didn't fit that typical pattern, that it makes it hard when that's really, you know, when a film is throwing those at you as often as this one did. But there was enough besides those jump scares that kept me interested and kept me engaged. Not only the performances of the leads, but also just, you know, the notion of the place and sort of the backstory. And there was a couple of flashback scenes and that kind of thing. All of that held my attention and kept me invested. The one thing I thought was interesting about this, because the Conjuring series, they're set in a certain time period. You know, they've all got that 70s kind of vibe going for them, and because this one is set in the 50s, the vibe is certainly different, but also it's just a different setting, and this reminded me a little bit of a almost a Hammer horror film kind of vibe to it, because of the set design, because of the set dressing, and just the overall atmosphere of the film. It had that kind of, you know, a little bit over the top, like if the acting wasn't good, it might have gone into campy territory pretty easily. But, you know, when I was a kid and I would watch the Hammer horror movies, they would scare the heck out of me. But they but then I look at them now and I'm like, why was I scared by this? But it's really the atmosphere. There's a certain look, there's a certain vibe that kind of stirs that up in you. And as a kid, that worked with me to the point where I didn't see the cheesiness surrounding some of those. Not all of them. There's some great horror Hammer films, but this kind of had that vibe to me. Like it almost brought out a nostalgic sort of thing for me, which I think helped the movie in my view. And then and it took at one point almost an adventurous sort of tone, like and again, I'm not spoiling anything, so I'm not going to give you details, but just the notion of 2 or 3 characters, going into a catacomb to search for things or to see what's down there or whatever. It almost reminded me of like the Brendan Fraser Mummy franchise, like that kind of a vibe to it, because sometimes those movies would have a genuine scare or something creepy going on, but there was still this sort of sense of adventure of we're going to go in there and check it out and we're going to see or whatever, and it had a little bit of that going for it, and I think that also helped it stand apart a little bit from the rest of the Conjuring franchise, a little different air about it. And so anyway, those are my thoughts. Now, the way we rate movies here on Pop Pop Fizzle, we use our name. So if it's a fizzle, then it's not worth seeing. Don't bother. Save your hard-earned money for something better. If it's a pop, then that means it's definitely worth seeing. You don't necessarily need to see it on the big screen, but check it out when it hits streaming. And then a double pop is rush out now, drop what you're doing, grab a big bucket of corn and a big soda, and go see it now. So for me, along that spectrum, this is going to be probably closer to a pop than a double pop. However, as I said, the atmosphere and the set design and stuff really had a cool vibe to it. I really enjoyed that aspect of it, and I think you'd lose something on the smaller screen. So if you are going out this week or in the weekend to go and see a new movie, and you don't mind these sorts of horror films, I would definitely recommend seeing it on the big screen if you can. But I don't think you have to necessarily. I just think it might enrich the experience a little bit. As far as the story itself or its overall place in the horror movie pantheon, I'd say it's closer to a pop. It's definitely, I've definitely seen so much worse, and I've definitely seen so much better. So I would say somewhere right between that pop or double pop, pop and a half, somewhere like that, as Heidi usually says. But yeah, so I think that's where I'm going to land with that. I did have a good time. I don't regret going to see it at all, even though I did have a little bit of an odd theater experience. But yeah, I think that if you enjoy this kind of movie, and if you've watched the other Conjuring films, I don't think you have to. That was the other thing I wanted to say. I don't think you have to be a fan of this franchise or to have seen the movies leading up to it to appreciate this film. I think it stands on its own just fine. Anyway, yeah, so those are my thoughts. Pop and a half from me. I'm curious what you think. If you've already seen it, let me know in the comments below. Make sure if you're going to talk spoilers, you put spoilers somewhere at the top of your post so that nobody sees that if they haven't seen the movie yet. Apart from that, if you like this video, be sure and give it a thumbs up. That lets us know that you like it and you want to see more things like it. If you're not subscribed, please consider doing that. And if you are subscribed, hit that little bell icon so you can get a notification on your mobile device or whatever the next time we drop a video. And I just got through filming an unboxing video for a Funko Pop ride. So you can check that out. That'll be somewhere on our YouTube channel. And if you like those kind of things, be sure and check out some more of those. We try to do those from time to time. I don't get a lot of those, but when we get something new and exciting in the mail, we try to open it up so you can see what we got. Anyway, that's it for this video. We appreciate, as always, you being a part of our little family. We're a small little channel, but we love it when you join us here, and we love hearing feedback from you. I have seen a few requests for us to look at different trailers. We will get on that as soon as Heidi is off. We're going to do a slew of those. So we will try to get to all the ones that have been requested. Until next time, folks. Bye.